Hello and welcome to the Next Generation Now Youth Dialogues. My name is Eric. I am a global shaper and I also work at the World Economic Forum.
And I am Murchana, the Community Manager for South Asia and the Impact Communication Specialist for the Global Shapers community. And today, together, Eric and I are going to be your hosts.
We're coming to you live from the World Economic Forum's studio in Geneva, Switzerland. This virtual program is part of the Global Shapers Annual Summit, the forum's flagship gathering that unites young innovators, artists, and leaders from every corner of the world to create lasting and positive change. This year's theme, Next Generation Now, is a very important reminder half of the world's population is under 30. We're entering an era where our voices, choices, and innovations are not optional, but are essential to building a shared future.
I couldn't agree more with you, Eric. Right now, we are in an extraordinary moment in history where 5 generations are living side by side. Some might see this as a recipe for misunderstanding or division. But it is also an incredible chance to learn from each other and build societies that are stronger and more resilient than ever before. And the big question today is, how do we seize this opportunity? For us, the answer is simple: intergenerational collaboration. It means bringing people of all ages to the same table, giving everyone a voice, and working together on decisions that affect all of us. But of course, putting this into practice can be slightly more challenging.
That is why this event, Next Generation Now Youth Dialogue, was imagined. Our goal is to show what this collaboration looks like in real life and to explore practical ways for different generations to work together as true and equal partners. The World Economic Forum believes in the power of gathering diverse voices, and young people are absolutely essential to that vision. This event is part of our commitment to making intergenerational collaboration and youth-led system change a reality. So whether you are a young person, a parent, or a leader of a business or institution, curious to learn more about youth priorities, the discussion from this event today will have important takeaways for you all.
Next Generation Now Youth Dialogues is powered by the Global Shapers community, an unprecedented network of young people in almost every corner of the world, delivering over 3,000 social change projects and engaging with more than 20 million stakeholders worldwide. Let's hear from Natalie Pierce herself, the head of the Global Shapers community. Natalie joined the World Economic Forum in 2016 to work with this community, and since 2022, she has been leading this community with awe-inspiring passion, integrity, and expertise. She is a true champion of meaningful youth inclusion, and we couldn't be luckier to have her lead this community.
Hello and welcome to the 2025 Global Shapers Annual Summit live program. We're thrilled to have you with us. I'm Natalie, head of the Global Shapers community, broadcasting live from Geneva, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. Whether you're a global shaper, a next generation change maker, or simply curious about how young people are shaping the world, we're so glad you're here. Each year, the Global Shapers Annual Summit brings together over 500 young leaders from around the world, uniting them through bold conversations, hands-on workshops, and opportunities for collective action. This year, under the theme Next Generation Now, we're spotlighting the leadership, innovation, and impact of young people, not for the future, but today, here, and now. Over the next 2 days, we'll emphasize that engaging young voices is not just a nice to have. It's a strategic imperative for future-proofing our institutions, societies, and systems. With more than half of the world's population under 30, especially in emerging economies, young perspectives can no longer be overlooked. For those joining us for the first time, founded in 2011, the Global Shapers community is a dynamic network of 10,000 young people driving dialogue, action, and change through more than 500 city-based hubs across 150 countries and territories. Together, members have launched over 3,000 local projects, engaging more than 15 million people on the issues that matter most to this generation. The Global Shapers community is more than just a network. It's the World Economic Forum's commitment to next generation leadership. As a strategic initiative, it integrates young voices and solutions into our work as the international organization for public-private cooperation. Young people help to advance our shared mission of improving the state of the world. What's unique about this year's summit? It's unfolding across two powerful places. First, the in-person experience here in Geneva, where Global Shapers are participating in over 70 sessions designed to strengthen leadership, accelerate action, and amplify youth voices. And second, this, our live program. It's bringing the summit directly to you. We're sharing real-time highlights, exclusive insights, and dynamic conversations with Global Shapers, forum experts, and our global partners. You'll also get a glimpse into how the World Economic Forum is already collaborating with young people to drive meaningful change around the world through tangible tools and initiatives. Over the next 2 days, we'll explore the global youth outlook. What are young people prioritizing, and how are they rising to today's biggest challenges? We'll also look at the global youth economic agenda, perspectives on work, entrepreneurship, and financial inclusion. We'll explore next generation social innovation, how young changemakers are designing bold, local to global solutions. And finally, we'll look at the youth climate movement, what it really takes to secure a just, green future. And of course, we want you to be a part of the conversation. Use the official event hashtags, hashtag GSAS25 and hashtag NextGenNow to share your reflections and questions with us. Tag at Global Shapers on LinkedIn, Instagram, or X to join the global dialogue. This is your summit too. So whether you're joining from Nairobi or New York, Manila or Medellin, you are part of a truly global movement of young people committed to building a more inclusive, sustainable, and hopeful future. So get ready to be challenged, inspired, and connected, because this generation isn't waiting. We're here, we're ready, and we're leading now. Let's dive in.
Thank you, Natalie. I fully agree that including youth voices is not just a nice to have, but a smart imperative for future-proofing institution economies and societies. So throughout the 2 days, we're exploring just that, the highlights on how the World Economic Forum is collaborating with young people around the world. And dear viewers, if you're joining us for the first time, or you're simply curious about how the World Economic Forum engages the next generation, you're in the right place. Join the conversation by using the event's official hashtag GSAS25, and share your thoughts on TopLink or LinkedIn. Your insights and ideas might even be featured live from the forum studio.
Now, zooming out a little bit from our studio, I want to share that yesterday, 500 young changemakers leading city-based hubs in over 150 countries and territories joined us in Geneva for the first day of the Global Shapers Annual Summit. We all gathered at the historic building Bâtiment des Forces Motrices, a former hydraulic plant in the middle of the Rhone River, which was originally designed to supply water to the city of Geneva. It now supplies the city with vibrant events such as the opening plenary of the Global Shapers Annual Summit.
And Global Shapers showed up in their cultural attire. It was a true visual treat and a representation of our community. We're also privileged to be joined by Borge Brende, the president and CEO of the World Economic Forum. Borge spoke about the role of youth in today's changing geopolitical landscape. We also witnessed a truly intergenerational panel discussion with moderator Kamal Ahmed, director of audio at the Telegraph, Sadia Zahidi, Managing Director at the World Economic Forum, heading the Center for New Economy and Society. Nora Boroba, Foundation Board Member of the Global Shapers Community, based in the Stockholm Hub. And Hosanna Silva, Curator of the Brasilia Hub and a climate activist. And the most exciting part of the evening was when we announced the winners of the Innovation Prize 2025, delivered in partnership with the Global Alliance for Youth. It was a true moment of inspiration and celebration.
We will soon watch a highlights video from the opening plenary, but before we roll the video, I'd love to share what's coming up next on our agenda. Right after the plenary highlights, we will be joined in the studio by someone who truly understands the power of storytelling for a new generation. Kamal Ahmed, Director of Audio at the Telegraph and co-founder of the News Movement. Kamal will moderate a dynamic roundtable conversation on leading with purpose and courage. He will be joined by Astrid Balsink, Head of Inclusion, Wellbeing, and Engagement at the World Economic Forum, and Jumoke Adeyeke, Foundation Board Member and alumnus of the Abuja Hub, as well as Arshita Sandiparty, a global shaper from the Oakland Hub. Together, this roundtable will discuss what it means to lead with values in times of crisis and set the stage for mapping out the hopes, the priorities, and the visions of today's upcoming leaders. So let's roll.
Hello and welcome to the 2025 Global Shapers Annual Summit. Over the next 3 days, our task is how do we harness our collective power to make a difference in our communities, to shape economies, societies, and global systems. It's a big task, but I know collectively we're up for the job.
We need the leadership in this room, in partnership with the other generations, to find those new models that work.
It is important in a moment like this, where there is this much uncertainty, to spend a bit of time thinking through what the possible futures might be. So we spend a lot of time at the forum looking at data, looking at foresight, but not just data. Some of that data actually comes from conversation. It comes from dialogue. It comes from different people being able to put their viewpoints together, and collectively you get a much better picture of where things are actually headed. So I think that is the type of thing that we know, whether in good times or bad times, is going to be important, and that remains a fundamental to what we do at the forum, and is a fundamental to why an event such as today is so important. We need that dialogue, we need that sharing of insight between people.
We have really old problems with actually simple solutions, and as a young person, I think we see these problems and we say, we know how to solve them. Why aren't we solving them? We can focus on the solutions. We can ask for the solutions because we have the solutions.
As a young person, it's easy to look at our political systems and feel that, they're not delivering results, things are moving in the wrong direction. Let me protest. You should protest, probably. But it's even more important to get engaged. I want to strengthen that pipeline that exists between social movements and political mandates, because it's important to look for new ways to do things differently, and if systems are not delivering, we also need to look at how those systems can be more inclusive, more representative.
I am so proud to announce 12 winners for the Innovation Prize for 2025. Every year the hubs are developing new ideas and new projects, and through this prize we get to support and celebrate the best of them.
When I look for people to hire at the World Economic Forum, I start with values, and then good judgment, and then of course if you're like hard worker and get things done is also important. It's not that the latter is also important, but that can be incentivized and all this, but values and good judgment, that is so important. The global shapers, I think you should be also fearless. Don't forget to be fearless, but true to your values.
Thank you.
Before starting to be part of the Global Shaper community, I always had some dreams about helping others. But now that I'm, like part of this community, it's just so nice to know that this is a shared dream and that we work together for the same goals.
I feel so energized by the people in the room. Everyone's so excited, and it's really great to connect with people from all walks of life and just hear their stories. It's so inspiring.
It is very imperative for young people to form part of those tables and political discussions, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are going to run the show, not the elders. So I think that it is very important that we form part of the discussions.
We can see that the youth can have a view of an aspect on the long term. So in my opinion, older people might not have a long-term vision as much as us, because we know that this will affect us directly. We have a vision for the future, and we need to ensure that our future and hopefully the people beyond us is secured, and we leave the place in a better way.
The Global Shapers empowers us to co-create this change. They remind us that we have a power, and we are so much around the world. We have so much young leaders over here, powerful young leaders, and bringing all of these young leaders together makes a strong and big movement to the world.
Welcome to the World Economic Forum Global Shapers, this live streamed event about leadership. We're joined by a panel of smart thinkers, not only from the Global Shapers, but from the World Economic Forum itself. My name is Kamal Ahmed. I am senior interviewer and columnist with The Telegraph, formerly editorial director of BBC News, and also founder of the News Movement, an organisation which is committed to bringing accurate news to the next generation of leaders. But as I say, this is about leadership. We've heard about some of the big challenges that we face as a world. We've heard from some of the inspirational global shaper leaders from around the world. We had an amazing plenary session yesterday here in Geneva at the World Economic Forum headquarters. And it's wonderful now to be able to really dive down into some of the detail of what it is we need to be doing together to solve some of those big issues that we've been speaking about, whether that's climate change, whether that's global conflict, whether that's the use and abuse of technology, the movement of people and migration, and how we may tackle those things. But as I say, it's not about listening to me for the next half hour, but actually listening to people who are doing this every day on the ground. So let's introduce a fantastic roundtable, and we'll have a conversation for the next half hour. I am joined by Jumi Adekeye. She is on the Global Shapers Foundation board, a member and founder of Young Business Agency. Thank you, Jumi, for joining us. Ashita Sandipathy, curator of the Oakland Hub, also a cybersecurity engineer. Always good to have an engineer when you're trying to solve a problem, I always think. And also Astrid Balsink. She is head of inclusion, wellbeing and engagement, member of the executive committee at the World Economic Forum. Welcome, all of you. Jumi, could I start with you from the Abuja Hub? We were in the plenary session yesterday together. You're here in Geneva to meet so many other global shapers. We're talking about Generation Now. And I think the word now is very important. I've been working with the global shapers for many, many years. But it is about leadership from young people. When you're thinking about leading with purpose, what does that mean to you?
Thanks for that question. I think the economist and philosopher Peter Drucker says that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And this action-oriented mindset towards achieving a goal is really what I believe purposeful leadership is about. I think yesterday at the plenary, you mentioned that in the 1990s, you had thought at the time that world problems may be solved. But look, fast forward to 30 years later, we're in a poly-crisis world. And so bold, purposeful leadership actually looks like identifying the root causes of these problems, being able to understand the systems in which these issues have arisen from, okay, and also work intergenerationally to be able to solve them. I think that oftentimes you see young people accused of being, having youthful exuberance and perhaps being a little too optimistic because the realities of life have not yet hit them. The narrative is different with the Global Shapers because we understand not only that because we are at the grassroots level within the communities, but we also have a different perception of what we can bring to the world in terms of solutions. And so some of the work I do is actually helping young people to be at the driver's seat of their economic futures, at the driver's seat of making change happen. And it's very important for us to recognize that a lot of young people, and I'm so really grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the Global Shapers community, which is values-driven, full of empathy, compassion, but also having our head on our shoulders to know that we can use science, understanding of political systems, relationships in different spheres of influence, use relationships in different sectors of the economy to bring about sustainable change.
Jimmy, give us a little bit, that's so important, so many points that you've made there. Give us a little bit about the work you've actually done yourself, because obviously you've been very thoughtful about what does purposeful leadership look like? Just give us a bit of your history, Clinton Health Access Initiative, other work that you have done.
Yes, I will speak about some of the work I've done broadly. I'm not representing the Clinton Health Access Initiative here. We have a very particular policy on speaking about our organizational work. However, as the founder of the Young Business Agency, I've really been at the forefront of creating opportunities for young people to find jobs and to also be connected to entrepreneurship ecosystems. I was very privileged to have the opportunity to develop a 5-module curriculum, having realized when I first returned to my home country of Nigeria, that I, within a few weeks, had gotten a job. And many young people came to me, give me a job. That's not something I could do, but I could look at their CVs. I could look at their cover letters, and that's how the journey began. Since then, we've been able to impact nearly 2,500 young people who have taken part in the programs, but also even more importantly, have been able to secure jobs in the hospitality sector, as well as in the security sector, and some in the NGO sector. And quite a number of them have been able to get jobs as interns, right? Since then, we've also recognized it's not just enough to prepare young people with employability skills. The reality of the technological advances that have been happening is such that they need to be upskilled, they need reskilling in terms of digital literacy. And so the next phase of the work that I'm doing specifically with young people in this context is really to provide them with access to digital literacy in generative AI so that they can be really prepared for the intelligent age. Work that I've also done in my paid job has also been about raising leaders. It's not just about getting the work done that we're paid to do, but also giving them the skills, empowering them to be able to have opportunities to meet with senior government leaders, for instance, and have the confidence to be able to question certain procedures of course, understanding cultural diplomacy while at it, because there is a certain way you need to navigate these systems. And I've really seen the impact, in the different sectors that I've worked in, of young people who recognize that it takes both hard intelligence and soft intelligence to navigate systems, not just to be understood and heard, but to be taken seriously. I think for me, it's been very critical to instill in many young people the importance of excellence, because from excellence, then you begin to, so what excellence can look like, thought leadership, right? Writing in scientific journal articles, publishing, making sure that you're engaging with leaders in the field, and the culmination of an understanding of having knowledge, but also experience on the ground, I think really makes for quite a good mix of skills and experiences that really helps us to move the needle on some of the issues that we're passionate about.
Jimmy, thank you so much for that. Ashita, could I bring you in? One of the interesting conversations we've been having here is around, as I said to Jimmy, the idea of now, and that Hosanna said, one of the global leaders, brilliant Brazilian broadcaster, she said, and you and Jimmy, I think, were saying something quite similar. Young people are seen as sort of very positive. They like waving placards and shouting a lot about things and how they should be changed. They're often not seen enough as an actual resource to make the change and to be given leadership positions. Ashita, tell us a little bit about the Oakland Hub being a curator. For people who are watching this that maybe don't know how the Global Shapers operates and how it thinks about empowering the next generation of leaders, just what is that you do at the moment?
Sure, yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's actually really important, especially because people don't tend to realize when they think about the Global Shapers community and its connection to the World Economic Forum, they don't realize that the Global Shapers and the hubs, the leadership is very decentralized. So we have a lot of freedom as curators within these hubs to basically do whatever is necessary to serve our communities. So for example, within the Oakland Hub, aside from having a curator, having a vice curator, having an impact officer, there are no real stipulations for what we should do, how we should do it, and how we should be interacting with the other working systems in our communities. So for us, we're able to just reach out to any other community organizers. We're able to fill in for any of the gaps they might have, especially after COVID. Many community organizations in Oakland have been struggling with engagement, and so we're able to give them bodies, give them people to help them accomplish the different goals that they have for Oakland. And that's just one of many things that we're able to do. And another example of how Global Shapers are able to use this flexibility to impact society is through one of the cross-hub initiatives that we have started within the United States called Shred the Debt. And it's one of our main efforts towards eliminating medical debt across the United States. We partnered with a nonprofit organization and provided them with even more reach in order to crowdfund sources of donations and erase medical debt that is bought directly from hospitals. And so far, we have accomplished an incredible impact, $2.2 million worth of medical debt erased just due to the efforts of Global Shapers alone. So I think the potential due to this flexibility, due to the trust that the Global Shaper community has within these hubs, allows us to basically do a lot specifically targeted towards our communities.
I think given that you're speaking, with experience about the American experience at present, as you said, Jimmy, I was speaking yesterday about, when I was your age in the 1990s and early 2000s, I think we did think we'd solved a lot of these problems. I think the 1990s was a decade which seemed very positive when I got my first job in 1992. But we do seem to have come back to a situation which is much more akin to what I experienced as a very young child, the 70s and 80s, the Cold War. We had lots and lots of strikes, lots of civil unrest. We had very visible racism, for example, on the streets in London where I grew up. Looking to America now, looking from abroad, it seems like the American conversation has completely changed. Like the whole debate about what is being progressive now, the whole debate about diversity, equity, inclusion is being challenged. And a lot of it is being, many critics would say, being undermined and being withdrawn from. Has that changed the way you've had to think about how do we re-engage people in things like dropping the medical debt or supporting people who are in vulnerable situations, when a large part of the argument appears to be, from looking from the outside, is that, well, you need to stand on your own 2 feet, and we don't want all this sort of aid, or we don't want all this help anymore, and we don't even want progressive politics. I just wondered how that's changed the way the global shapers are thinking about engaging with people.
So I think you actually bring up a really interesting point, and I think this is where the generational and geographical divide really is. I've actually found that, at least within Oakland, within California specifically, it's been really easy to get more engagement from people. People are more interested in being involved. They recognize that issues are becoming worse, that we're going in a direction as a society that we don't want to go. So as a result, they're actually looking for opportunities to basically give their expertise, give their skills, and try and work towards that better world. And so we're actually getting a lot of applicants for the Bay Area hub specifically. And as a result, we're able to utilize these people's interest and passion that's been rejuvenated, unfortunately, due to the circumstances within the United States.
Do you find you need to reach out in different ways to maybe connect with the people who aren't in California? I remember I was head of the US election coverage for 2016, and the different way that communities in the heart of America, the Midwest, or what are sometimes described as the flyover states, the states that are flown over when you're traveling from New York to LA, for example, or flying into California, they had such a different attitude, and the conversations were very different. And I think a challenge for the global shapers is how do they, of course, it's lovely, good to hear that the engagement in California has been upped because people are responding and want to lean in more. How do we change the conversation so that the people who feel left behind is the phrase often used?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I actually think that the global shapers are uniquely positioned to address the very problem that you're mentioning. I spoke mostly about California because I live in California, I live in the Bay Area, so I'm aware exactly of the rise in interest and participation and engagement. But I can also say with confidence that the global shapers really connects the shapers around the country. And I mentioned a cross-hub initiative. There are many other cross-hub initiatives that connect California shapers, for example, to the Midwest, to the East Coast, and we're able to collectively strategize and work towards implementing solutions, maybe in different ways, depending on the different intricacies of our communities in these different states. There's 50 of them, but still working towards a common goal. So because we have this unifying factor of being global shapers, we have a platform that allows us to communicate across these state lines, across difference. It really enables us to accomplish our goals in that way.
Great. Astrid, could I bring you in on that sort of slightly more global sense of, and I think, Ashita, you make a really important point. Obviously, the experience of the different geographies is completely different, and we mustn't get into too sort of the Western way of thinking about the world, because obviously we know that that's not the only way to think about things. But Astrid, in a broad sense, has there been is it more challenging now to have the types of conversations in the expertise that you have around inclusion, well-being, engagement, given that a lot of the political conversation, not just in the West, but across many, many countries, is now about almost saying that's gone too far? How do we reimagine those conversations?
I think it's actually fairly easy, to be honest. And it comes naturally with the attitude of the shapers. If I hear you speak, you went back to Nigeria, you couldn't create jobs, but you could actually look at CVs. So you look at what you can do. And I think to that matter, where you said flyover states, I think people, we've been just focusing on our differences with diversity. And I think diversity, a requirement for diversity is really to be inclusive. Because without inclusion, there is no business case for diversity. If we just sit here looking diverse, but we're not speaking up, there is zero gain. So by zooming in solely on our differences thus far, and just putting inclusion in the back seat, we've just gotten the order wrong. If we start with our commonalities that we want to contribute to building a better world, we start to like each other. We create a heart connection. And that's where things start to flourish. And with that, there is space to actually show our diversity. So you need relationships. So if you then say, has it gotten harder to talk in a global perspective around this topic. No, it just requires more nuance. And I think what we've been doing is, of course, having a lot of one-liners that contribute to more polarization versus having a more nuanced debate and more open questions to how is this for you? What do you need? And not assuming that we know best. Because to your point, I think even if you look globally, we're quite complementary to each other. Like this morning we had a session and someone said, yeah, but we're talking about conflict resolution, and someone said, but I'm from LATAM, so typically if it's loud, there's not an issue, but if it gets quiet, there might be an issue, right? And I think that passion and emotion is beautiful, and it complements maybe some of the diplomacy that Europe brings and the actionability and innovation that the US brings. So they're the wisdom that Asia brings, and these are still stereotypes. But I think if we start to be more curious and more nuanced in our debate, we will find connection points as people that are not so hard to find, and that will create a lot of space to actually enjoy this subject again.
I think sometimes when we're talking about leadership, we do lack a bit of a sense of enjoyment. I just wonder, Astrid, when you're thinking of yourself as a leader and maybe your leadership teams, you're on the executive committee of the World Economic Forum, what type of advice would you give the young people here who are often in leadership positions but are still quite early on in their careers, and obviously incredibly successful, passionate groups of people that we have here? What do you think about some of the key tenets of leadership that you try and apply and maybe that you have learnt in your career to now?
I think empathy is really important, curiosity, as I just stated, but I think also it's such an exciting time to lead because it's a transparent world, so we can all lead. And I think the game is changing from the 90s, as you said, and the 80s, where it was very much about me. We're going to the era of we. So communities and the power of team in we, you can move mountains together, to your point. We are not tied to a process, because processes and systems are lacking impact. So they're very valuable, but they're not the solution for everything anymore. So what we can rely on then is ourselves and our joint values. And that again, values and agreeing on what the values mean for each one of us is something that in leadership really goes a long way. And tapping into different strengths, if you have that relationship, will really create the business case for diversity, which is around innovation. And that starts when we just have many different perspectives in a room, in a debate, in solutioning a problem. So I think one of the leadership things that I really hold high is the notion of team and the different perspectives and voices at a table. I think empathy, because even though we say change now, it takes time. So that's the only thing where I also heard people quoting like, yeah, but old people don't look long term. And I often say millennial is a mindset. So I'm a millennial. And I think we need all generations on board. Because I'm a woman, I've passed menopause, I'm not sitting here sweating anymore. My kids are 18 and 21. Tell me what to do and I'll help change the world. So we need all generations, and they all bring their unique strengths, as you all individually do. So teaming up from the strength of our differences is going to be just so much fun, because we all should lead with purpose, having a higher stake than just the world of tomorrow. Yeah.
Jumi, I was at an event, a Global Shapers event. It was some years ago now, and I met a young woman called Taylor Hawkins. And some of the colleagues here at the Global Shapers, she still is a very significant figure. She was then a young politician from Australia. And I made a very similar point to you, Astrid. I thought it was about time that old people sort of got out of the way and leave some space. That was kind of my point to her. And she's made a very interesting point to me, which was that was the opposite of what was needed. What was needed was intergenerational partnership. And how do we lead with intergenerational partnership? And what she described as intergenerational sympathy, which I thought was a really nice phrase. But Jumi, for you, what does leadership mean in this, I love the word you use, polycrisis world? Because people could be overwhelmed. There's sort of burnout. There's sort of the idea that I've got to sort of boil the ocean of problems. There are so many problems. Where do I even start when there seem to be so many things on top of us all at once? How do you think about leadership through those kinds of situations?
Yes, I think that leaders today need to see change as the waters that we swim in. And so just building up on this notion of a polycrisis world of many layers of challenges, whether it's at least post-COVID, post-2020 really, I think, was the beginning of a better understanding of what this means, where you have the recession, you have the global uproar against racism, and you have just a number of issues, including the digital, the exacerbating digital divide, and just what's important in terms of leadership in these times is recognizing that we need what I'd like to call cognitive agility. And so perhaps in previous generations, you have one issue that you're looking at a time. Now this notion of, as you've raised, intergenerational sympathy, the notion of working in communities with individuals with different expertise, recognizing that the healthcare crisis is linked to the climate crisis, is linked to economic crises, and the importance of recognizing the expertise, the experience, the perspective an individual leader can bring, but in conjunction and connection with others. And this is, for me, the power of the Global Shapers community. We have 6 impact areas that we're looking in, and why this is important for me to share is that we then recognize, yes, there are many issues that may be interconnected, but as different hubs, we have more than 500 hubs, meaning we have more than 11,000 global shapers organized in more than 500 hubs, organized across these 6 different areas, interrelated, but you have, as young people leading in these different areas, an opportunity to deep dive into them, an opportunity to also make sure we leverage the different stakeholder groups, right? I think that leading in today's world really requires us to not be a Superman or Wonder Woman. It's perhaps more the Powerpuff Girls, right? A group of leaders who have their strengths, who have their expertise, their experiences, but working together to recognize that these interrelated issues can be solved, should each one recognize their strengths, but also limitations. I think what's been very important these days, and you talked about, I really appreciate that analogy of sort of boiling the ocean, is to recognize that we as humans have limitations, but we're better together. One of the reasons why we are here at the annual Shapers Summit is to, on the one hand, amplify the voices of young people who have been leading, addressing key issues in their communities, but also equipping them with the tools, the practical skills that they need, all ranging from knowing how to engage different stakeholders, even mental health awareness, which is quite important, and recognizing, I think as a leader today, it's important not to carry the weight of the world on your shoulder, right? And that sometimes that also looks like ensuring that you have mentors. And mentors don't necessarily have to be more seasoned leaders. It could also be individuals that have been walking a certain path. If you move from corporate to private, corporate to civil society, you would need mentorship in those areas. This is also where the model of the Global Shapers community is phenomenal, because curators who lead their hubs are also supported by community champions. We'll also be having a group of experts in communication and governance in different areas who are also able to support leaders. I think the last point I would make is that something that I also want to draw on the example of the Global Shapers community is that intentional leadership succession plan. Sometimes we have, and we've seen in some parts of the world, that it's almost that leaders do not recognize when their time is up. One of the models that we see, curators have a 12-month tenure, and they are supported, as I mentioned, by these different groups, but also in terms of their planning, there is an incoming curator, a current curator, an outgoing curator, and planting those seeds of understanding that there is a purpose and a time to lead, but then you also give others the opportunity to do so. And imagine amplifying that. I mentioned that we have more than 11,000 shapers. We have about 8,000 alumni as well. So quite powerful seeds that are being planted in what leadership can look like, what it should look like, supported leadership, but also very intentionally understanding our human limits, but recognizing that we're going to have to try different things, fail fast, learn, but also take from the experiences of individuals who have different expertise, come from different generations, and to add to that body of knowledge that will really make us be better leaders and bring about the change that we're truly seeking to make.
Thanks so much for that. Ashita, an engineer. I was always fascinated. Chief executive I know very well, runs a very big media company, is a physicist. And she said for all problems, there is the scientific method. There is a method that scientists use to get through problems and find solutions. I just wondered, what do you bring to the table from these different skill sets? So for you, for engineering, obviously, but obviously other different skill sets around the table. Does the scientific method or engineering help us at all, just in the way that you think about how to work your way through problems?
That's actually really interesting. I know a lot of scientists and engineers who share that same sentiment, but I actually do not think that the scientific method is necessary or relevant in literally every context. I think there are very, very important contexts that require people's lived experience, and listening to those experiences, acquiring those perspectives, back and forth debate is really important. And I also bring up debate because I actually did 8 years of competitive speech and debate, and I actually hold the opinion that that sort of adversarial discussion is one of the most effective ways of reaching a solution to something. So I think that there are multiple ways, the scientific method, but also discussion, dialogue, discourse, and understanding where people are coming from and their backgrounds or lived experiences. Those are all tools that we can use to basically come to a solution that works.
I made a point in an earlier session that this is about this is the and century, not the either or. And often, lots of you had said, building on that point or adding to that thing. And just as you've said, there is something in the scientific method which could be useful and sometimes often is. There's often something in the adversarial method. There's something in the collaboration method. There's something in the listening method. You've all brought together many, many ways of leading, which I think is vital to how we all work. But we've come to the end of our time together. Astrid, Jumi, and Ashita, thank you so much for discussing with such passion leadership, global shapers, the great work they do. I've heard the words team, empathy, being curious, cognitive agility. I think, Jumi, was a lovely phrase you used. And I think that mixed model of thinking very deeply about what it is you're trying to achieve and what's the best way to get that. And just the passion and positivity of the global shapers themselves. To be here and to listen to them in their annual conference does give you a lot of hope for the future. Handing back now to Machana and Eric.
What a timely and inspiring conversation. Murchana, what did you think?
I loved it, and I think this is really the conversation that brought in so many different aspects of leadership. You know, whether it was Jumi talking about local solutions to local problems. Young people are not just sitting back and complaining about things. They are actively looking at what's going on in their communities and coming up with creative solutions. Arshita brought in beautiful insights about the power of dialogue. You know, we keep talking about the crisis, but I think there is something powerful about having a community like the Global Shapers community, present in 500 locations, bringing people together with different backgrounds and different opinions on the world, and bringing them on a table respectfully to talk about issues. And I think that is really powerful. I'm also curious to hear what you thought about Astrid's opinion on moving from me to we. That was also very
That was very inspiring.
relevant.
I particularly resonated with the fact that we need to focus on intergenerational value, that all generations can come together and strive towards too. And that leads to also Arshita's point, 500 different hubs decentralized, really being able to focus on local challenges and being able to come up with solutions, active participation, and that global shapers community providing that platform for connection. And to Jumi's point, equipping those leaders with value-based approach, leadership skills, and also being able to identify what are the local problems, how do we approach with the cultural context in mind. And I think that's the true power of this global shapers community, and that the fact that the 500 shapers are here to discuss just that is inspiring to me.
Absolutely. And also, just speaking of solutions, I just quickly want to congratulate the 12 hubs that won the Innovation Prize, which was delivered in partnership with the Global Alliance for Youth and Accenture. So congratulations to the hubs Yola, London 3, Budaya, Johannesburg, Jaipur, Peshawar, Brasilia, Bulawayo, Abuja, Sacramento, San Luis Potosi, and Curitiba. Congratulations.
Congratulations again. And on that note, I'd also like to highlight the 3 fundamental pillars of the Global Shapers community. 1, build youth leaders. 2, accelerate youth action. And 3rd, amplify youth voices in decision-making. While this community is systematically working towards mainstreaming youth priorities, they should also serve as inspirations for other organizations and institutions that want to work with young people but don't know how to begin doing so.
And before we conclude this first segment of Next Generation Now Youth Dialogues, let's have a quick look at what is happening on site. We had Grace Atkinson, our life journalist, who also works at the forum's Risks team, who met with Global Shapers earlier today to capture their real-time reactions, reflections, and highlights. So let's watch what they have to say.
Good morning. We're at the Geneva headquarters, where we're currently on day 2 of the Global Shapers Annual Summit. The summit this year is under the theme Next Generation Now, and today we're looking at youth leadership. Who better to speak to than some of our Global Shapers? Who would like to come and have a chat? Good morning. Please introduce yourself and where you're from.
My name is Adi. I'm from the Melbourne hub in Australia, and lovely to be here.
Lovely to meet you. Is this your first time in the Geneva office?
Yeah, this is the first time here in Geneva, the World Economic Forum head office. It's a really incredible view.
How are you feeling for the summit today? Are there any sessions in particular you're looking forward to?
I'm feeling really, really great. A little bit jet lagged, having come to Europe from Australia, but I'm really excited to learn a lot more about how to lead a Shapers hub, a global Shapers hub, and also very excited to meet quite a few of the World Economic Forum staff who are supporting the Shapers community.
Amazing. Well, have a great summit and see you around. Thank you so much. Please could our next Shaper come join me? Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
What's your name and where are you from?
I'm Ewan from Beijing Hub.
Lovely to meet you. If you could describe one word for how you're feeling today, what would it be?
I think it's very exciting because I feel I have the full energy to do anything, because yesterday I heard the share that the young generation should think wildly. Yeah, so very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you have energy. It's quite early. And, you know, the whole theme of this year's summit is Next Generation Now. Why do you think right now it's so important to capture the youth voice?
I think there's a data that half of the population in the world are the people under 30. I think we can do more. And there is another data that there are about 90% of young generation, they are actually from the developing countries. And this is the places where should need change and we should act now.
I like it. And what is one key action you'd like to take back to your hub with you when you leave Geneva?
I think first thing is the community, the feeling of getting together and we can do things together. One Shapers cannot do anything, but all of Shapers from all of the world, we can do a lot of things more than we imagine.
I like it. Collaboration. Thank you so much. Have a nice summit and see you around. Thank you. Next Shaper, please. Good morning. How are we feeling for the summit ahead? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Matthew Schuster. I'm from the Apia Hub in Samoa in the Pacific, if you don't know. And how I feel for the conference ahead? I'm all right. You know, we have 1.5 days left. I think we had a taste of it yesterday, so I'm eager to learn more with people.
Yeah, and you know, what does being a global shaper really mean to you?
It means I'm a WEF initiative and someone that just does community outreach. I think that's the gist of it.
I think the community aspect is so important, especially, you know, today it's all about youth leadership. Are there any sessions in particular you're really looking forward to building on and, you know, having more of your skills developed?
In terms of skills, I think I can learn. There's a lot of great options today, but it's more of the networking that I'm here for. So it's the APAC regional meetup that's coming up next. So I'm eager to learn more of my Australian and New Zealand and other Pacific hubs.
That's great. Yeah, have a great summit. I hope you meet other shapers and see you around. Thank you. Who is my next shaper? Good morning. I'm good. I'm looking forward to speaking to you all. Please introduce yourself and where you're from.
Okay, my name is Paula Cortez. I'm here from the Orlando hub in the USA.
You had a long journey, actually.
Yeah, about a 15-hour flight. Yeah.
How are you feeling right now? What are you looking forward to for the day ahead?
I am feeling wonderful. You know, I got a good night's rest. I'm really excited to be here. I am looking forward to, you know, working with other hubs, working with other curators, getting to know people, and seeing, you know, what cross-hub collaborations we can do, as well as, you know, what leadership skills we can learn here that I can take back to the hub, and, you know, improve our hub.
And, you know, what to you makes a good leader? What is a skill which you think is essential, especially for the youth today?
I think one of the best skills to have as a leader is empathy, you know, and being able to understand where people are coming from and knowing that we're meeting people where they're at, you know, and, you know, we're here to grow together and we're here to learn together. And the best thing that you can do as a leader is facilitate that process for everyone around you.
That's great. And one word to describe how you're feeling?
Excited.
Great. Well, have a great summit. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think we have one more shaper with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself and where you're from.
I'm Kristaps from Riga Hub from Latvia.
Lovely to meet you. Is this your first time in Geneva?
Absolutely not. I've been here a few times and I'm so happy to be back.
What are you looking forward to at this summit in particular?
Well, I'm really curious about how other hubs and other leaders are tackling some of the things related to onboarding and keeping people aligned so that they are all inspired and can do good things together.
And, you know, this summit, it's all next generation now. Why do you think the next generation is so important right now?
It's a wonderful question. Well, it feels like there are plenty of timelines coming together and we kind of need to make a decision about what we are going to do together. So it's very important that we come here to mingle, to meet each other, to learn about the best practices, and be able to shape the future that we want consciously and not just let things unravel out of chaos. So, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, what does being a leader mean to you? If you were leading an initiative right now, I guess you are as a creator, what is the one skill that you really think is so important?
I think for me, it's introspection and focusing on having clarity about what I want to bring about. And that brings plenty of inspiration and plenty of force to push through. I think without that, it's just very boring as well. So I think it's introspection first, and then it's easier to go forward together.
I like that too. Well, thank you so much. Have a great summit. Take care. So that's it for this morning. You know, we've had some great interviews and I'm really looking forward to meeting more shapers throughout the day. Back to the studio.
Eric, it's always so nice to see the faces of the shapers, and I think this summit is such a unique opportunity. We're bringing all our hubs together, and we're bringing all of these representatives to learn from each other. And for me personally, one of the key takeaways is just the fact that as one young person who wants to change the world, it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming. but just looking at the power of this community when we bring all of them together and we activate that collective responsibility towards our world, that is just so powerful about this community.
I fully agree with you. The collective power of Shapers always inspires me every year. And really, curators, vice curators, impact officers, representatives of each hubs coming together to be inspired, to mingle, to get to know the community, to feel the global presence, and then to take back their learnings, their inspirations back to their hubs for a year ahead to identify the values that they want to pursue, and then having that foundational moment through this journey. I think it's a moment to celebrate.
Absolutely. Taking back is another thing that we really emphasize on in this summit. It's not just about the curator coming to this event, but also really taking those notes and making those mental sort of connections and understanding all the lessons that they need to bring back to the hub, because this is a collective learning journey as well. So that was really nice to see the Vox Pops with these young people. And with this, we conclude today's first session. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us to shine a spotlight on the power and the potential of young people in action. If you enjoyed this segment and learned something new so far, please leave us a comment on TopLink or LinkedIn and join the conversation by using the event's official hashtag, #GSAS25. Your insights just may be shared in the next session.
We'll be back in 1 hour to talk about youth economic outlook, new age careers, and skills. Make sure you join us back here in time, because you will also get a chance to meet the wonderful Global Shapers team and get a full regional update on the locations of our 500+ hubs. See you soon.